House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.
I so look forward to recording on Zoom on Tuesdays because I get to hang out with Liz and Gina. They are downtown at Remax Diamond Realty. Liz is finally here on island, and very, very fittingly, because ladies, I want to say happy Bosses Day. You guys run a wonderful brokerage down there and an agency, so like best to you.
Thank
What?
you.
What? Who's
I
boss?
didn't even realize. Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
we all
by the way, no one calls us boss. And if they do, I said, wait a minute. We work together. We're not bosses.
there you go. Well, we all work for the big boss upstairs, and the
Yes.
wonderful picture that
Right.
both of you have over your right shoulder. Santa Maria and Catalan is looking out for all of us, certainly.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's kind of an interesting thing that we're talking about Bosses Day, because as kind of like, the head of an organization, and everything, you have to make decisions, not thinking just, 2 hours ahead, possibly 2 years, 2 months, 2 decades ahead. And yes, once again, we're talking about estate planning and probate, everybody, because Gina brought up the fact that there is some legislation now that has been, what was it, Gina, somewhat like formalized by freshman Senator Shelley Calvo that you took an interest in.
Yeah, yeah. It actually passed in June, and it became public law 38-13. Um, and
There we
thanks,
are.
Jace. I think you do have a copy of it. But
Yep.
yes, if you could share that, and for anybody who wants to get a copy, you could certainly call our office, call Liz or myself, and we'll send you a copy. So recently, I had a friend of mine contact me. She lives in the States. She has a property here in Guam. And we all get to the point, no matter what age you are, we all get to the point where we actually want to tidy up our affairs, right? Get everything in order. And so she called and she said, Gina, I've got that piece of property and I want to, decide I'm finally ready to sign it off to my kids and I want to know what to do. And she had heard of the life estate. She's well versed in real estate. So she said, I know that I could do this through a life estate, but I also have heard that there's other mechanisms that I could use. And so I looked into it, and that's a copy of the bill that I sent her. And Liz and I have discussed, possibly inviting Senator Shelley Calvo onto the program so that she could explain what brought this about and why she introduced this bill that has now become law. But we kind of just wanted to give you the fine points of it because we thought it was important enough. We're always trying to share with the community mechanisms that they could use to help themselves. Now you can't prepare a deed yourself, definitely. You need an attorney, or you could go through a title company, order your title report, and then through the title company, you could get the deed prepared. And this would be the alternative to a life estate.
And like we talk about it all the time on this show, but like I'm an advertising major and I appreciate, good marketing and branding and concept development. The name of this concept, I mean, there is no ambiguity to what it does. It's literally says it's a transfer on death deed.
Yeah.
That's
Like
right. But there's a difference, though. We want to make sure with the life estate, it's a little different. It's like, Jason, I'm going to deed property to you while I'm alive. You don't get the property until I die.
that is the
So
condition. Yeah.
that's the condition. I could live on it, do whatever, but your name will be on the title only after my death. And that's what they refer to as the life estate. So that documentation, and we've had situations like that where they've transferred it, but it got complicated when the person they deeded to, and I've had that case, the person they deeded to passed away. So then they had to go back and make some changes. But just for clarity purposes, I could deed something to you. I keep it until I die. I occupy the home, and then when I pass on, then you can then the property goes to you directly.
The deed goes under your name, and then you
The deed
you
will be under your name.
you may
Period.
develop on it if regulations permit, or you can sell it, you can further transfer it, right?
That's right. But your name is on it, and you own it. I can occupy it until I pass. And this bill is a little different, right, Gina? The
Yeah. So the difference between the life estate and the transfer on death, and for me, this is actually the biggest difference. And the thing that I think, if I needed to make this decision about my properties, I might actually use a transfer and death deed instead of a life estate. And this is the reason why. With the life estate, once so you for instance, I own the property under a life estate and Liz will get ownership. So Liz's name is on the deed. It's under Gina Campos until my death, and then it transfers to Liz Duenas without going through probate. That's the life estate deed. If I decide I wanted to mortgage the property, or let's say I change my mind, let's say Liz isn't my favorite partner anymore, and I want to transfer it to John Duenas instead. So I decide, okay, you know what? I'm taking Liz's name off. And you know, my mom did this to us quite a bit, so I know I can see this happening. Where
I'm
you
sure there's been like
change your mind.
a few like TV shows that have formed on that very premise too.
Yeah. You know, you do the life estate, but you change your mind,
Yeah.
or you perhaps decide you want to sell it. Uh, I would need Liz's signature on anything. If I get a mortgage, she has to agree. If I change my mind and I want the property back and I want her to give it back, you know, I want to terminate her name, she has to sign off saying, okay, you could have it back. If I want to transfer it to somebody else other than Liz, she needs to acknowledge it because she has interest in that property under the life estate. My understanding on the of transfer on death deed is that it's revocable. I can change my mind. I can change it anytime I please during my life. So until I pass, I still have the ability to change that deed. So, and that's for me, that was the big difference. I said, wow, you know, that's it's a tremendous asset to continue to have, that I can actually change my mind. So, for instance, if the person I transferred it to passes ahead of me,
Right. Yeah.
and all I need to do is, okay, I changed my mind. They're gone. It's too bad, you know, my intent was that, but they're gone. So I could just do another deed and transfer it to another person. But in that deed itself, you do have a primary beneficiary and a secondary. So I'm sure you could address it that way. But the more important part is I can change my mind. It's revocable.
Okay, yeah, so you as the primary deed owner, you still have the ability to roll back should you just change your mind or situations, change. Because I mean, then there's a million cases we can do if you've lived on Guam for at
Yeah.
least 5 years. It's like, okay, well, I have I have kid A and kid B. I deeded it to kid A. Kid A wound up going to the States and is never going to come back. So now I want to give it to kid B, or kid B winds up in jail, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the difference too with as I mentioned, with that life estate, it was deeded to a son, and that son passed away. So the dad felt like, well, I could get the property back, but no, it's not that easy. They would set the death of the person that now is part of the life estate. They would have to go through the probate process to look at who their heirs are and then go through that regular process. So no matter what, you can't do anything. You still have to go to an attorney. You still have to go to the court. Now, Gina and I, usually when we talk about these topics, we talk about our experiences and what we go through, but we are not attorneys and we can't give any advice. You always have to go to an attorney to get the full scoop. Is this accurate or not? But when we come on the program, we talk about, this is our experiences, this is what we've done, this is what we've seen. And I think the critical part too is, if you're deeding property and you're deeding it, let's say, to 5 kids, you've got to really think about that. Because when you deed something, and I've experienced this, where what is your intent? Was the intent for the 5 to eventually sell it so that they each have a share in the property proceeds? Or was it to stay? Because if one person doesn't want to sell that property later, then all 4 are stuck. And I've seen that happen many a time,
Yeah.
where the intent was they're each to share in the monetary value of what is given to them. But when they're stuck with one sibling that doesn't want to move it, or one passes or 2 passes, everything stays until probate is processed in order to go down the line to complete the paperwork.
And that is a very Chamorro thing to do too. I mean, it's a Guamanian culture, but specifically Chamorro is you may get your grandparent gives property to your parent, who then gives property to you. The intent is you're not going to build on it. You're not going to sell it off to the military or to be turned into a hotel. The intent is to just pass it from generation to generation to generation, and that's an obligation to you. I know so many families that do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
many do, but then so many eventually, depending on the personal needs,
Yeah,
uh, you may need to sell because someone needs the money and the property is there. And although grandfather or grandmother said you can't do this after they've passed, and I've seen it happen where a family want to sell, but they can't because grandpa's still alive. And then they wait till grandpa passes. Then we can decide at that point of how do we handle the property or how do we divide the proceeds or the sale of this property to the 10 surviving children. So everyone has personal needs, and it's kind of hard to dictate what you do with that piece of property when everyone has individual family needs.
exactly. Like, and my grandmother's property over in Ordet, one of the reasons why my family values it so much is it sits on Victoriano Street. So it literally is our namesake of that, the property, the street it's named after, and everything like that. And, like, we're very, very proud of that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And every family, every piece of property is so unique. And so we have to, real estate isn't a one size fits all. We really take into account what's best for the families. What is their ultimate goal? And is selling the property or not selling the property, is that what will achieve your ultimate goal? Because
Right.
that's important to us as well.
Okay, let's talk about this real quick, Gina, because the good Senator Calvo, had the foresight to basically say, she was crafting this bill in no small part to do with the fact that obviously, when you have a death in the family, you're dealing and you have to go to probate, there's the expense of time, there's the expense of funding that you're going to have to put out to work with a lawyer and then go to court, and then also the emotional cost that's involved with there. And with the large volume of probate cases, as the three of us have talked about so many times in the 10 years we've done the show, do you think that this is going to be a very viable vehicle that a lot of families that don't have their own family attorney can actually use to at least say this is what I want done with my property when I'm no longer here?
Based on what I read, yes, I thought it was a great alternative for what
Mm.
my friend had in mind. And I'm a kind of a control freak, so the
Oh
revocable
no,
part of
really?
it, yeah, unfortunately I am. I acknowledge that. But the revocable part of this, that's what told me that, okay, because Liz and I, we've run into a lot of families who have changed their minds, for
Mhm.
one reason or another. Life doesn't stop the minute you do that life estate, right? It continues. And as it continues, you're going to go down different streets, which may require you to make a different decision. And I have had to deal with families who've come in to say, I need to change that deed. And then, like Liz pointed out, we run into complications. And sometimes the complication brings out the ugly in the family, right? Sometimes things happen. You deeded it to a child, and now that child doesn't want to deed it back, and things get ugly.
Yeah.
So having the revocable part of the TOD deed, having that revocable part, I think you retain control for whatever reason. And I thought, for me personally, that was important. I said, wow, if I needed to choose, this would be my mechanism. And I'm sure Senator Calvo came across a lot of families that maybe reached out to the legislature, to her, to other people in office. And this was her idea of making that, cutting some costs for these families. Probate is not cheap. I don't care I don't care what people say. It is not cheap. It's time consuming. The attorneys are overwhelmed sometimes with some of the complicated probate cases. I dealt with one where I helped the family for over 10 years. Yeah, it's tough. So if you have a mechanism like this, it is a fantastic, it's a gift to the community, really. Take
Mm.
advantage of it. If your estate is not complicated, if you've been able to make a decision on what you want to do, take a look at this. call an attorney friend who might want to just talk it over with you, or call us. We're not going to give you legal advice, but we'll share with you what we think based on how we read the law. And then from there, you could contact the escrow company to do the title report to help you with the documents. And then from that, the escrow company might be able to refer you to an attorney.
Or if you
Yeah.
want, you can just have a good cup of coffee and you can watch House to Home on KUEM, because I mean, we've got 549 episodes of this show. 213 of them are on probate. That's how much we care about this topic, and that's how important this topic is to our community.
Yeah, but I just want to point out the escrow companies have definitely helped. I would reach out to them to say, hey, this particular individual wants to do, let's say, this particular deed to their child, for example. They will refer it to an attorney. And what I like about it is I would say, hey, I need this done. Can you handle it? They'd refer it to an attorney. The document comes back, and then I let the escrow company take the documents and do the recording. Of course, there are fees involved, but I don't want to make any mistakes. I don't want you to make any mistakes. So I prefer the expert in the title company to take the documents, make sure they have the right number of copies, that the documents are done properly, and then they take it to land management to get it recorded. So whenever I personally need anything recorded, I don't want to do it myself. I give it, it goes to the attorney, escrow company takes the documentation, make sure everything is in order, get it recorded. I just don't want any missteps where later it could be challenged. So legal documents are important, and the proper recordation process is also very important.
There you go. I mean, I'm not a car person, and whenever I need my car worked on and everything, I always bring it to a mechanic because I want it done right the first time.
That's correct.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, I kind of hinted at this, ladies, as we wrap up the show, but if any of you astute, eagle-eyed viewers that just saw like a couple moments ago, I said we've got 549 episodes. Next week is a very big milestone for us because next week will be our 550th episode of House to Home.
Wow. We'll
Very
make it count.
nice.
There
They
you
all
go. What-
count.
Huh? Yeah,
Let's
let's do something.
They all count.
Celebratory
Yeah, and
show.
Liz is probably going to be off island next week, so she'll be joining on Zoom. No, we'll get together for in real life next week.
That's good.
We'll make it happen.
Okay,
And,
so
guys,
guys,
can I just have a shout out? If you guys are watching this program and you can find some time to copy and paste it and send it to Senator Calvo, please do that. We want to thank her for her efforts. We
Yes.
did want to interview her personally in the program, but I know how overwhelmed the people of the legislature are. So, it's not an issue at all.
We'll try to get her for next week. Hopefully she'll be free.
there you go.
we
So
can
she could be
try.
our guest on the 550th episode. That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
please send it to her. We want to thank her.
There you go. And we will see you guys next week.
House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.